to today's edition of Pegasus Test. On today's edition, we're dyeing some Czech Desert Gear OD green. Now why would we do that? Well, here in Virginia and West Virginia, there are absolutely zero deserts. So while I got this gear at an incredibly good price, and which you've seen in a previous video on this, it's useless to me in its current configuration. But we're going to try to dye it, make it some kind of OD green type camouflage pattern, and see if that can make it more useful for this environment. Once again, I have our OD expert here, Doc Larson, to walk us through how to get this done the right way.
Yeah. We'll be working with, on this video and these dyeing videos, we're going to try a couple of different recipes for the dye, okay?
Excellent. Let's get started, Doc.
All right, what we're testing today is our standard recipe, I'll share that with you in a minute, on a desert battle rattle. What is this, Dutch?
Czech Desert pattern.
Okay, Czech. I was close. All right, so this is a Czech Desert pattern. Once again, the mystery is it nylon? Is it polyester? You know, here's my prediction that you'll see that this is probably more polyester. That is the Velcro stickers and stuff like this that you can see, more polyester. And I just don't know about the tan band. I'm guessing this is a plastic that won't take it, but the rest of it is, I'm thinking it's nylon. Let's see how it does in our standard recipe. So I'll submerge that here, get this good and bubbly. All right, we've got it nice and hot. We're cooking on a hot plate here at the Bravo Company Arms Room. And so a lot of this is experimentation, right? We just don't know what the Czechs were using to make this. Remember that RIT dye struggles with it does fine with nylon, tends to do fine with most polyesters, not all, but these dyes don't work well with polyester. In fact, when I say don't work well, that's an understatement. They usually don't take a thing. So we're going to sit here and play with this for about 10 minutes. That's the normal time. We've got it at the temperature we want. I might turn that up just a bit because anytime you add something into the water, it does decrease the temperature of the water. You want to bring that back up to optimal. Also, once again, never boil. Okay, that damages. I don't know what it does to the dyes. May not hurt it at all, but it'll damage whatever you're trying to dye. So be very careful with that. All right, so what's our recipe? Glad you asked. The recipe we're testing today is our standard OD green, and it is 4 parts Kelly green RIT dye, 2 parts Sunshine orange RIT dye, and 1 part dark green RIT dye. So you can use those, once again, as covered in another video on Les's show. They do have synthetic dyes that we have not tried out yet, but I do want to make you aware that synthetic dyes claim to do the actually handle the polyesters as well. They claim to be able to dye that. But there's a reason I'm not going to use dark brown. A lot of people say, well, if you're doing OD, if I'm doing OD and I'm making that out of paints, then I'm definitely going to mix, you know, some kind of medium green like a Kelly green. I'm going to mix it with brown. After all, the D in OD green means drab, and drab really is to add dirt, a dirty color like a dark sand or a medium brown into it. And so, yeah, that would be the logical thing to do. But again, our experience with this to date is that for whatever reasons, the chemical composition of RIT dye dark brown just overwhelms everything else. So we don't recommend using brown in your dye unless you are trying to dye brown, in which case not only does it work, you don't need to mix it with anything because it's going to overpower everything and just dye it, you know, this kind of dark brown. So so there's that conversation. All right, well, this is looking like a challenge. I'm telling you, I think this has far more nylon in it than I gave it credit for. Not nylon, I'm sorry, polyester. And so we'll have to come back in about 10 minutes and see how it does. All right, thanks. Okay, so I'm not going to show you yet the result. What I'm going to show you is why I made the predictions, and I'm also going to show you the original. So over here we have the Czech Desert field gear. On this side we have British DPM desert that in a previous episode, Les and I dyed using
Link to the video in the end.
Yes, yeah, link to that video. And using the same recipe that we have here. Now you'll notice on the British stuff, like you can see this did not. Look at this webbing versus this webbing. This webbing had more polyester in it, and it did not take. Of course, the plastic was black, so that's simple enough. But you'll see like most of the webbing is some kind of nylon. This is a Cordura nylon right here, and nylon takes this RIT dye very, very well. So you can see that in the British version, we really did well. But to hold true, this is a rubberized, and rubber does not take this nylon well at all. So inside the ammo pouches here, it didn't take. And of course, again, I'm saying you can see it did not take on the strap here. And that's why I said I predict that this strap will not take, and but I thought this would take, and some of the other things. I said, you know, I didn't know if the hard plastic would take. Well, let's talk about what happened. I'll show you that, and let's talk about why. So this is still wet. It's a little dark only because it's wet. Everything, the browns and the greens and everything else will lighten up here. We had to rinse it off. Remember, always rinse your stuff off. But you'll see, holy moly, almost nothing inside of here took. And the reason is, this is polyester. Come close in and you'll see, you can see the thread. The thread of this is clearly not polyester, and it dyed to a nice OD green that we want. Even little onesies and twosies here. You'll notice that this is still going to change color slightly as it dries off, but you'll notice that the straps are nylon, and they took. Also, the Velcro that I said, oh, that probably won't change. Yes, it did. It's got lots of nylon in there. Heck, even the tag changed. But look what didn't change. Any of the polyester siding, the polyester materials. Once again, when this dries, they'll be the same color, the polyester, because it did not take this. So it's not just a matter of knowing the process, you know, the right temperatures, the length of time to submerge, to keep agitating, and then to rinse. That's your process of dyeing. And then you want to say, well, what's the proper recipe? Well, we're showing you one recipe here today that we've used successfully in the past. So there's all of that, but equal to that, it's simply, you know, buyer beware. Know what material you're getting. We assume the Czech material would be very similar to a British Cordura nylon. No. The Czech is clearly using a very robust, effective polyester. And I don't want to position myself as an expert here, but what I've been told anyway is that polyester gets its color when it's still melted into a vat, right? So they've got all this polyester and it's literally boiling as a liquid, and they add special dyes to that then make that vat into that color. As they dry it into strings, into thread from this plastic, you know, recycled bottles or whatever they're doing, then that's how it gets this color. How's it get that dark brown? How's it get that light tan? You know, that's how they do it. Or how's it get a red or a blue or any other colors that polyesters come in. But the problem is then the dye is set into the liquid polyester, and you really can't dye it again. I mean, I guess you could paint it or something like this, but you really can't dye it. Well, that's not true for nylons. Nylons may be colored in a vat very much like a polyester, but the difference is that they're porous enough that later you can dye them to different colors, or at least darker colors. Maybe you can't dye them to a lighter color, but you can dye them to a darker color. And so, again, you know, it's buyer beware. Know what you're dealing with here, okay? Because clearly that didn't turn out to be this. It's going back to this once it dries, okay? All right, lessons learned. Thanks for joining us.